Allies of Majesty here, and this is the book, but
Yeah,
what
the fiction book. Yeah.
yes, and there it is. This is the hardcover here. How did you come up with this idea, and where did it kind of start in that process? As a game,
Yeah.
a card, or
Okay. Yeah.
writing?
So, I'm trying to think of how far to go back. I'll go back, but I'll do it super briefly.
In the beginning.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I was a
We have got
young
time for
child,
Genesis,
when
yeah.
I was a young child, pretty young, like original D&D cartoons were on
Okay.
Saturday mornings. I was like 7 or 8.
Hmm.
And at that same time, I was having my mom, like, I would make her read the Bible to me. So, like, Revelation, I was making her read Revelation because I thought it was cool,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so, at that time, and I grew up in a Christian home, and so I would watch the D&D cartoon. I enjoyed the fantasy aspect, the creativity. It was more creative, kind of like what people get drawn in with sci-fi and other things too. It's outside of our own world. There's the rules of our world are not applying the way we would
Mm,
know,
yeah.
So that's what some of the appeal to fantasy and sci-fi is. Just one is tech and one is magic,
Hmm.
but either way, or imagination, but they're very similar, I think. It's just they draw on a different personality, but they're the same thing.
Right.
But anyway, so I loved all that, but there's just a lot of like this, you know, it's always the good guy you meet isn't quite, you're just trying to help him, but then you always encounter these powerful evil people, and they have all these evil desires and evil things, and the only way to overcome them, because this is the late 80s, is the power of friendship, and that's really what it is. It's just we're going to keep
Every
trying
anime
together.
ever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, and it's like being a Christian that felt empty,
Sure.
to
Sure.
me. It felt like I knew an answer that was missing.
Mm.
And then also, the darkness. It just felt dark,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to say satanic panic kind of dark, but it didn't. I'm not going to say I felt like, oh, like, but I felt like the dark was powerful,
Sure.
and the light wasn't. There was just the power of friendship, like I said, that kind of stuff. And so, I felt that there was something missing. And so for me, I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if you could have a game like that, but something that like included, like, God was real, present
Mm.
in the world
Okay.
and the cosmos of the game, or the lore. And how could that work? And I started thinking, hey, dragons, like Tiamat, the multi-headed dragon,
Yeah.
is like a big character in this,
That's
in the D&D cartoon.
that's Chinese, isn't it?
Well, no, I think it's Babylonian.
Babylonian.
But
Okay.
yeah, but they had, like, that's one, but they borrow a lot of that stuff for Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
And so they had that kind of stuff, dragons, beasts, and people with powers. And that's I was like, there's that stuff in Revelation. What about the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns and all this? That's two more than Tiamat. Anyway, but the point is, it's like, the Bible has this stuff too. And I was like, oh, and about people that like fantastic powers and all this. What about the angels? Like,
Hmm.
okay. And then, but the only two growing up in a Protestant environment, I just knew that the Bible, the canonized Bible, has Michael and Gabriel. So
Hmm.
I thought, knowing the archetypes of characters like you have kind of displayed in the D&D cartoon, there's like, yes, there's the defensive cavalier guy, or the archer, or this, but there's also like the magic person and the other things.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Michael, he's the warrior, right? We got that. He's like and then Gabriel, he'd be like maybe the faster kind of guy than that, more than that, less than like the strong with Michael.
Yeah,
But
because
then that's
he's the
just
messenger.
fighters. Yeah.
He's gotta deliver messages.
But we didn't, at least, exactly. So in my experience, though, I was like, in my limited knowledge of the Bible at that time, I'm like, but where's the fantastic powers? They could fight,
Hmm.
but what? Okay, they're guys that fly around and they're spiritual beings that fight, but they're still just fighting, and that would get boring
Hmm.
soon as a game. And this
Sure.
is me, like 8 years old, like, and then I just put it aside, and never thought about it again.
Yeah.
But then, fast forwarding, now I'm going to fast forward, be able to. I didn't touch it for a long time,
Yeah.
and now I'm holding my first child, and I forget. I think I'm going to say 20, young 20s, but I think, well, no, I could do math. I'm 49, he's 25. So yeah, 24 years old. That's what I was thinking. So about that
You
old.
don't look a day over 24.
Uh, there you go. Yes. So, well, my scalp says otherwise, but so yeah. So let's see. Yeah, so I was holding him, and then I was, it was a Sunday right after church, and you pace with your babies, and then it was like, especially because it's like if you sit down, the baby cries. They know it's like you have a homie, like here's this line, something they sense in their brain that they're sleepy, they're fine, and then if you sit down, their head lowers below that line, and it
Mm.
triggers something in their brain, and they wake up. I don't know what it is
It's
with babies, but I have
magnificent.
12
Yeah.
children, so I can say I put this to the test,
Yeah. Wow.
So with this one though, I was pacing with him, and I started thinking, oh, it just came to me. This was like after church on a Sunday, and it was like, oh, what about the one where it's like, aren't they not all ministering spirits that minister unto those that would inherit salvation? I think it's
Okay.
in Hebrews. Are not all angels ministering spirits? And then
Mm.
there's another one that like, not that it wasn't a class, and actually, I guess angels never technically sing in the Bible, even though we assume that they are. They're calling out or other things. It's never saying that they
Ah,
sing something.
gotcha.
And somebody called me on that. I was like, you're right, but that's okay. It's not like it says they can't. So, but I was thinking like, okay, they're singing this or calling out that, and so I thought minstrels, would be a
Mm.
cool like with some power in the spirit realm manifesting from their song.
Yeah.
And then I thought ministering spirits, that kind of put me in mind of like the clerics or the healers.
Yeah.
And then it turns out now that I'm older, like, oh, Raphael is kind of that guy. And in
Yeah.
in in extra biblical writings, and then also like you've got like Uriel and some things like that.
So you're taking
So
some biblical writing
yeah,
and you're taking creative liberty where it's due for you to use your creative liberty to
Y-
tell this story and to
yeah,
create this game without it really being offensive or, in a sense, blasphemous to to the scriptures.
yes, and that's
Yeah.
that's definitely something that we can get to. So wrapping up with a game, I ended up making a role playing game.
Yeah.
It's basically the kind of game where it's like, yes, there are rules, but mostly you're creating the story together.
Yeah.
You're participating in a group imaginative exercise
Right.
where there are rules and your characters have stats, but you're just making this story up,
Hmm.
and how you behave, your character behaves, shapes how the story progresses. So
Sure.
that's that. But then people that are used to like D&D, okay, Tolkien, they understand elves, dwarves, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They understand that world because of like Lord of the Rings and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they try to hop over to Allies of Majesty, where in our world, whether in the past or future or some other side of the globe, but you're still in our world, but you're in the spirit realm. Your characters are spiritual beings, and there's
Mm.
so many things not defined about spiritual beings, which gets into what you had just said,
Yeah.
that they don't know what's expected of them, what's okay. If your character tells a joke, are they going to fall and be fallen angels now? You know what I mean? Oh, wait, that's blasphemy humor, whatever it is, so, or if they're sarcastic or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
so how do I run this game? And that's where the book comes in. Cause I was like,
Yeah.
okay, the reason people know because they saw a movie or they saw, same with Star Wars. They know how to behave in a Star Wars world. If you just said, let's pretend Star Wars for a bit. If
Okay.
they've seen the movies, they know generally what it makes
Use the
sense with.
force. Yeah.
Yeah, or like, you're a scoundrel in the little Tatooine bar or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you got these ideas of the various roles
Yeah.
that people may have. And same thing, like I said, with Lord of the Rings and those kind of things with Tolkien, but they didn't have that. So now the stories I've known for probably about 15 years or so that I wanted to make the stories. But I just kind of set it aside
Yeah.
because I didn't have the time. And, but it was like, yeah, that's what that book is. So the book is a way for people to, as they read the short stories in it, they get a sense for the world. And
Yeah.
now the world that's kind of strange and, well, how does that work, becomes a little more inviting. Like, oh, I see how that can work.
Yeah.
Instead of it turns questions into desire, hopefully.